What do we talk about when it comes to elections all the time? How do you win elections? Well, it's not the sexy things, right? It's football season. We all love football season, and we all love the wide receiver who runs a 4.3 40 and hurdles 19 people on the way to the end zone. He doesn't do that without a bunch of big, fat maulers blocking people in the trenches. Football is about blocking and tackling. Elections are not about TV commercials for the most part. It's about blocking and tackling, chasing down ballots, get out the vote, knocking on doors, blocking and tackling. Turning Point Action does blocking and tackling. That's why we're about to talk to Cailtin Sinclair, official spokeswoman for Turning Point Action. Okay, Cailtin, obviously communists do this well. They're very, very good at blocking and tackling, getting out the vote and all that crap. We have historically been awful at it, but it feels like we're getting better, are we?
Well, if we're not referring to the football analogy anymore, as long as we're not the New York Jets, I think we're doing pretty well here. So Democrats, notorious at the game of early voting, Jesse, of doing the grassroots stuff, the groundwork, actually knocking on doors, encouraging early voting. So yes, we're trying to beat them at their own game. We're making this a too big to rig operation and targeting low propensity voters. So for your viewers, the question is, what does that mean? Low propensity voters in this country, if you look at the numbers, the percentages are actually largely Trump supporters. So these voters are already Donald Trump supporters. They're just not likely to get out and vote. They haven't voted in the last 2 elections. They don't believe in the election system. So what we're doing at Turning Point Action is changing that narrative, having the conversation, explaining to people that their vote does count. We need to beat the Democrats at their own game, at their end game here. Early voting matters, getting out to vote, making sure you're even registering that one friend. Register your ex-boyfriend. I don't care who it is. Make it happen. Talk to your community, and let's win this. Again, too big to rig. That's the mission here.
Yes, I'm sure there are a bunch of girls excited to talk to their ex-boyfriend. Cailtin, you talk to these people a lot, and I realize that you're a political person like I am, so maybe neither of us can understand this, but you mentioned there are registered Republicans who didn't vote in the last election or last couple elections. That's insane to me. I could not imagine just, oh, no, I'm too busy that day. Why? I realize everyone has their own story, but why haven't they turned out to vote? What are they doing?
You know what, Jesse? I think we're in a day and age now where it's easier to complain on social media, right? These Twitter wars are happening. It's easier to post a TikTok or a tweet complaining about the issues. And what we say, what Charlie and the team always says, is we can't engage in the Twitter wars if you did nothing to save this country. Donald Trump wants to save us. He will save you, but you need to save him first. And what does that mean? That means getting out to vote. And you can have the Twitter wars, you can complain, but do it after November 5th and do it after you actually put that piece of paper in the ballot box.
I know Turning Point is deep in Arizona, and I'm glad, being as how they just ruled 98,000 non-citizens are probably going to be voting in the election, and now abortions on the ballot. That was, of course, done by Democrats to turn out the vote for them this November. How's Arizona looking, Cailtin? Because this is a Sun Belt state Donald Trump has to win before we get to the Rust Belt.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd have to report to my team that does the amazing numbers and statistics and polls there. But look, the Democrats want us to believe that this is a election about gender. It's an election about one single issue. But you and I both know, and what I really hope is that the females, my contemporaries and my peers here, are not silly enough to vote on a single issue. And they're not going to vote based off gender and based solely off the one issue of abortion, which is, of course, what they focused on. And of course, what they're focusing on here in the state of Arizona, because too much is at stake. And that's the only risky thing I would say, where you have female voters in the state of Arizona and across this country right now that are falling for the trap of thinking that this is an election about gender, thinking that if they vote for a woman who can't even define them, by the way, that she will somehow save us females, save our reproductive rights. I don't think so. So I really call on my fellow females there to look at the issues at hand, look at what this country is going into. And this is an election about so much more. This is an election about putting our country first, finding love of country again, putting faith in God back as centerpieces in our community. What about the family unit? I mean, this is a party that Kamala Harris belongs to, the Democratic Party, that doesn't even want females to reproduce. They want females to go into the workforce, work a 9-to-5 job. They don't want us to get married. They don't want us to start families. So what reproductive rights, girls? What are we talking about here? And you're not only seeing that in the state of Arizona. Of course, that's the focus that we're talking about right now, but you're seeing that across the country. So I really hope the females are not looking at this as an election based off gender or a single issue, because there's way too much at stake right now.
Cailtin, have young women been poisoned against the idea of families, of starting a family, of having kids? You see it culturally everywhere. Is it been effective? Do the 20-year-olds, I don't know how old you are, but do the 20-year-olds you hang out with, do they speak in not so nice terms about starting a family?
You know what? I will say on the record, Jesse, I am in my 20s. And I can say, yes, I was actually a victim of the whole boss culture. I was, because there is this notion and narrative that's being pushed out there that you need to, in order to be successful, dedicate your life to a career. There's no time for family. There's no time to focus on that. And also look at this generation, right? We've replaced everything with such quick and easy fixes. We've replaced real relationships with porn and social media. We've replaced eating healthy and good food with junk food and vapes. This is an election that comes down to the core principles that this country was founded on and getting back to all of that. And I think it's the men in this country. We're leaving it up to the fraternity brothers, so God bless them, but it's the men in this country that realize that more than the females out there. And I do think the females have fallen victim to this boss culture of not wanting to start a family. You look at someone like a Chelsea Handler who brags every day how she gets to wake up at noon and has nothing to do, no one to take care of, and no responsibilities. And that is such a dangerous message to send young women. It's a very dangerous rhetoric. And unfortunately, it is being pushed. And I think a lot of women are falling for it. So God bless again those fraternity brothers in this country, because we're really counting on you.
Yeah, we're banking on the frat bros. Cailtin, the RFK Nicole Shanahan, I had a chance last week, sat down with Nicole for a little while backstage at this thing we were doing, but she's really hot on this health thing and the RFK Jr., he's hot on the big pharma stuff. I am curious, do they move the needle at all for Trump? They're clearly all in. I would say more against Kamala Harris than Trump. They are really not fans of the Democrat Party. But do they move the needle? Do they help? I know they don't hurt, but do they help in any significant way?
So I love this question, piggybacking off what we were just talking about, Jesse, because everyone's been talking about this gender gap right now, the gender divide that exists between these two candidates. And I'm just going to say this because it's my opinion. I don't know who agrees, but the way I think we bridge that gap a bit is this exact topic: is make America healthy again. Maha, you want to attract young females, you want to attract young mothers. Make America healthy again and focusing on that is how we're going to do that. I think absolutely this helps Trump now. Listen, in my my opinion, my generation that's been set up for complete failure, no chance at the American dream. Not only are they poisoning women's minds, Jesse, like you just alluded to before, they're poisoning our bodies with birth control, with poison in our tap water, in our food. So you attract the young women by focusing on this topic, and there is no MAGA without Maha. So I think it definitely helps.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.